Hello, beautiful people. Do you want to make concept art and illustrations that really just blow people away? Well, so do I. And in this video, you're going to learn my process for how I make my illustrations.
Now let's get started.
So part one is going to be thumbnailing. This is something I never do, which is one of the main reasons it takes me so long to make my illustrations. I take forever because I do all my thumbnailing in my head, which isn't good. And if you're trying to get a job, you can't do that. You need to thumbnail on paper, pencil and paper, or digital apps. You know, you need to let your employer know what you're thinking. Otherwise, nobody's going to know when to tell you you're wrong or you're off base or something's wrong. But thumbnailing can be really fun too. It's akin to gesture drawing, in my opinion. It's not the same, of course, because gesture drawing is for humans, but the same principle of, just laying down things really quick. You can also take your time with thumbnailing, but in my opinion, it's better to try to get things out quickly and explore everything as fast as possible to try to get as many ideas on paper as you can. Okay. Part two is reference gathering. Now, reference gathering can be a time suck. You can sit there and spend so much time gathering reference. Now, you do want to gather a good amount of reference. You don't want to sit there and gather too little, but you also don't want to gather too much. So the main sweet spot is you want to gather reference that's based on the culture, the timeline or time frame of when your story takes place, the theme, and maybe color grading and, matching certain elements of style. You really don't want to rush things when it comes to reference gathering. You don't want to just grab the first thing that comes to your mind, and you should not always grab reference from the same medium you're trying to replicate. So if you're going for digital painting, maybe look for something in real life or 3D, and then if you're going for a 3D rendering, maybe look for something digital or even real life again. Mainly your references should be coming from real life. That's the best advice that I've heard, and it makes sense because you're emulating real life. You're not trying to copy it. You're trying to get real world examples of how your light should work in your scene and kind of go from there. Now, this last point that I'm going to talk about is composition. Now, as much as I love composition and I try really hard to be good at it, it's not exactly something that comes to me academically. It's very intuitive for me. It's very intuition. It's very gut feeling. And if you can get that gut feeling to really help you on your way to becoming more proficient at coming up with pictures, I think that's going to help you a lot. Now, if you can't come up with gut feeling illustrations, which is sometimes what I can't do, sometimes I just have art block and I can't think of what to make. But if you can come up with rules and guidelines on how your images should come out, for example, the rule of thirds, the golden ratio, these things don't matter incredibly, but they do matter a little bit. For example, they're kind of like guidelines to indicate, okay, well, if this is what my picture looks like, then maybe I should move things here or move things there. Maybe I should make the focal point and where the cross sections of one of the lines. One thing I really love is that if you're working in 3D, Blender has compositional guides that help you, or maybe it's a plugin I have. I don't really know if it's a plugin or if it's native to Blender. But anyway, Blender can do compositional guides if you have the right plugin or something. And it's amazing to help you with, just setting up your scene, because once you use the compositional guides, you're able to really see, what is going on in your scene. You can break things down into thirds or the golden ratio, which is kind of similarly broke down in Blender. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar, and I think you guys would really benefit from using that plugin if it is a plugin. If it's not, I'm sorry. And my final one, which is, a surprise, I guess, not really, but it would be just learning how to digitally paint. Now, that is something that comes and goes with my skills. Sometimes I know how to paint, sometimes I just don't, and I really struggle to be consistent with digital painting and drawing. But one thing I do and I've learned is that when you're digitally painting over 3D renders, it's about refinement or simplification of detail. If you're going to refine the detail, then you need, and I mean you need, to know how to digitally paint. If you're going to simplify detail, then you don't necessarily know how to digitally paint. You're just trying to simplify the scene so that it looks good. There are filters out there. There are so many tools out there to help you simplify your scenes. Now, doing that using a filter is not always is the best thing for your scene. Sometimes it's better to meticulously go through and actually put in the work and try to fix it yourself. For example, I would not use a filter to try to simplify a 3D render of a character. For example, character concept art, I do not use filters for those because or not anymore at least, because I'm starting to notice it makes everything blurry, gives everything a haze, and I just don't like it. Now, when you're working with environments, that can really help you with concept art and illustration. Those filters can be really, really good. Now, you don't want to crutch on them, which would be like using the filter and doing no painting at all, or doing so little work in both 3D and 2D that the filter just kind of carries you forward. Now, when it comes to working in 3D and 2D, you can offset one or the other. You can work really heavy in 2D and really little in 3D, like some people do, or you can work really heavy in 3D and very little in 2D. Now, both of which require different skills, but it's worth learning those skills if you really want to get better at concept art or illustration. It's really, really useful to get better at one or the other or both. And that's probably all the advice I have for you guys today. But, if you learned anything, be sure to comment below what you're excited to try out. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.